Hi, Bianca. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello. Hi,
Hello,
Bianca.
How's
hello
everything?
everyone.
We're on
Chapter 6.
chapter 6. Yeah.
Yeah, we're today we're going to be talking about chapter 6, and personally I liked this chapter, but I think that maybe um yeah, there were a lot of examples, and yeah, I like examples, but I I think it had like too many examples, but it's a good chapter.
Yeah.
So he starts this chapter talking about requesting that which would enrich life, and I feel that this is something that has happened to us a lot of times, that we want to say something or we want to request something, and we end up having the opposite result of our intention. So he here gives some points to think about on how to improve the way we make requests and express to others. So the first three parts are observing, feeling, and relating to our needs. But he starts talking of the fourth component of the NVC process, and is to others the question of what we would like to request of others in order to enrich life for us. And one of the things that he starts saying is to use a positive language. That sometimes we want to say something to someone and we say, don't do that. But we are not actually telling them what do we expect them to do. And yeah, that's something that helps a lot to give clarity on what do we want others to do, because when you say don't do that, you leave like an open space to, okay, then you're telling me what to don't do something, but you're not telling me then what should I do. And yeah, that's one of the first things that he comments here. Does someone want to say something about this?
I love this. All I know is I feel I won't. When I'm told to do, I don't. It's just a great line.
Yeah.
It's like just a kid, you could just, but yeah, it's this just perfect for shifting.
And yeah, this thing of being clear is going to be really important through all of the chapter.
I just want to say that I've studied a lot about kids and like how to communicate with kids. And through this book I can see a lot of it, that like we actually don't know how to talk to people in general.
Yeah.
And
That's cool.
we usually like to give orders to kids, so like don't do it, don't touch it. And then it's the same thing, like we're not really giving them any style or any opportunity to do something. So to have a positive language makes it easier for the other person that's listening to you.
Yeah, and yeah, it's a really common mistake that we do. Like, we say what we don't want, but we don't say what we want. And yeah, and this relates to something that he's going to be explaining later, and is to have a clear objective of what do you want, um, coming from a request, because sometimes you say don't do something, but we don't know what we want, or what we prefer. So yeah, it's important also to not only say the what we don't want to happen, but to use like an assertive and a positive language, that can make it clear. Yeah, and yeah, he gives here an example of that is important to clarify what I do want to do, or what do we do want others to do, and not like just saying what don't we don't want others to do. Yeah. And yeah, making requests in clear, positive, concrete action language reveals what we really want. This is something that was very clear to me, in my day to day life, because I live with my girlfriend, and she was telling me like, you don't help with the things in the house, and I was like, hey, I'm helping with what I can. But then, after reading all this, and some weeks ago, I was trying to really understand how could I fulfill her need. And then she told me like, okay, I really want you to make the bed when we wake up. I want you to clean some dishes once in a while. I want you to not leave some things thrown at the floor. And these punctual actions, I really could rely to them, and I really could understand them, rather than me feeling like I am not yeah, contributing to the household maintenance, and in the convivence. But yeah, these clear steps made it really easy, and I feel that we both I really related to her needs, and I could do something about it because I knew what she was expecting me to do. And it's very important, that because sometimes we just say, and that's other thing that he's going to be talking about, that we only say our feelings, and when we express our feelings, it's not clear what are our requests. Maybe you can say, I am angry, but or I am angry because I expected other kind of behavior, but you are not requesting what would be the change that you expect from the situation. So yeah, and vague language contributes to internal confusion. Like yeah, when we only express our feelings, or we express vaguely what we request, it just makes more confusion. So sometimes we are like shy to say things, but we should try to find a balance of prudence, where you say things, but in a way that it's pleasing for others, to hear. Yeah, and here it's reinforced that idea, like, I'd like you to tell me what I might do to make it easier for you to feel free to express yourselves around me. Like, um we sometimes we expect others to be like mind readers, and he gives an example of a mother saying like, I'm thirsty, and that immediately relates to us, like, okay, can I please have a glass of water, or could you please help me reach a glass of water? But we just say like, I'm thirsty, and that way we leave our request, or our intention in the air, and we don't make it a request, but we make it rather a demand. Like, um, so it's not not only to say um, what we feel or what we think, but making use of the feelings and the needs. Because if you express a request without saying your feelings or your needs, it may sound like a demand. But if you respect that maybe the reaction or the response of the other may be negative to what you requested, then it is a request because you're not imposing it. If you're imposing like to do something, you're making a demand. But if you empathize to the point of view of the other and you accept a no, you are making a request because you cannot impose a request to other.
I have a question. What does it mean when it says depression is the reward we get for being good?
Yeah, it's because
Yeah.
we don't do what we are moved from the inside, but we are getting this good evaluation from the external side, and then we are not following our own our own feelings. But Durgas, would you say something? Like to say something?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm reminded of one thing that I read that talked about, depression is often like the way we experience it as adults is like a cumulative resignation that the situation really hasn't changed from when we were children. So we have all this accumulated stuff that we have to deal with when we're kids because we have very little autonomy or agency. And a lot of times, if we feel put in that same position again as adults, it can sort of echo and create like a double, kind of depression because it echoes the thing we experienced earlier. If we had a situation in our childhood that you know was talking about that or was like that, right? So a lot of times people just kind of act like depression just kind of appears out of nowhere or something. Do you know what I mean? But often it is some psychological shadow thing where we suppress ourselves and then we don't get to act in a living way, or that's all the reason why all of my stuff that I'm talking about as far as the philosophy and different things that I'm talking about always tries to create a living wisdom from that, because I don't want to be in a situation where there's kind of a demand for good. Do you know what I mean? And that's kind of, I think, what he's talking about here. So.
Yeah, he says that we get depressed because we're not getting what we want, and we're not getting what we want because we have never been taught to get what we want. And sometimes people is shy to express themselves, or they just hear a demand and they just do it. But like being responsible for our own feelings and for our requests and for how we receive the communication from others is really the freedom that we get from a framework like nonviolent communication, um, where it promotes you to be autonomous and responsible for your feelings, and also for how you express to others and how you receive the communication that others give to you. So yeah, lack of awareness of what they want from others had contributed significantly to their frustration and depression. Like sometimes you live in a situation that you are uncomfortable with, but if you don't make anything to change it, then you're going to be all the time stepping with that same situation. And I think that making a request is also somehow like taking action to transform the situation. And yeah, people that is depressed, sometimes they don't feel the capacity to change the context that is around them, and they feel that they are being absorbed by the context.
It's also true that this kind of stuff can be very difficult to get over. I've noticed that there's kind of a how you make requests is often very determined by the way in which your family made requests. So that's something to look at, not only just from a work perspective or professional perspective, but also just you know, how you express people with your intimate relations is often different than how you would do it, you know, personally or professionally.
Sorry, guys. I just want to say I had to leave to the praise quant that I forgot is right now at 1:15 local time. But I'll definitely come to the next one because so far I've enjoyed what we've been talking about, and yeah, I'll read this chapter and the one for next time. But for now, I have another commitment.
Thanks, Manu.
Okay, man.
Yeah.
See
all
you
right.
later.
But I talk to you later.
Yeah, and this is what I was mentioning before, like the example, like your sister who is watching television in the living room calls out, "I'm thirsty," and yeah, that's not like in this case it might be obvious that she's requesting you to bring her a glass of water from the kitchen, but she's not actually requesting it. She's making more a demand because she's just expressing her feelings, and she's like expecting you to be responsible of her feelings and not yeah, she being conscious of that she can meet her own feelings and needs, or, or express it in a better way. And yeah, it may not be clear to the listener what we want them to do when we simply express our feelings. Like, I am annoyed. What can I do? What can I do to yeah, and sometimes people don't even isn't even clear about what they want or what they are expecting. And this is something that called my attention, and that her words were uttered solely to make him feel guilty. If yeah, if someone says like, "I am annoyed you forgot the butter and onions I asked you to pick up for dinner," because yeah, when we say that, we are making the other responsible for our feelings, and this is like making a like, or trying to make the other feel guilty about something. And yeah, it's important also to understand that when we make a request to others, we should also be able to have a dialogue with them, because a request is not a demand. And when you make a request, you are going to have a response, and it can be a positive response, it can be a negative response, but you will have a response, and that's how you engage in a dialogue. And yeah, like a request unaccompanied by the speaker feelings and needs may sound like a demand. So yeah, the clearer we are about we want back, the more likely it is that we'll get it. And this is also related to empathy, because sometimes we want others to do something that we wouldn't do. And when you can be empathic to the other, you can understand what are the limitations of the other. Like, sometimes we see, I don't know, someone busy, and we want them to do another thing besides that, the thing that it's taking making them busy. And
Can I make a request?
yeah,
I'd like to maybe just have the three of us engage in saying about this chapter rather than necessarily having you like summarize it for us. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I do feel like that might be a bit more effective and engaging.
Yeah, perfect. How can we improve that?
So, yeah, I think, I just want to hear what Bianca has to say because, we're in all these meetings and we're often talking. So I like to give people space to talk a little bit and maybe ask questions or give their reflection. Not trying to put you on the spot, Bianca, but.
Thank you. I was just thinking while Juan was doing like all the readings and putting his thoughts, I was thinking like how important it is sometimes for us to be direct with people, not being like aggressive when we talk, but like how it's important to be direct and like put really like what we're thinking and our thoughts out. And sometimes it is hard to be direct, but like nowadays actually, like people don't have really a lot of time to lose. So like if you're not direct, they're like, okay, like what's the point of this? And then when direct, you just get to the point that you want, and then maybe the answer is going to be right no or right yes, and then it just makes life easier.
Mm-hmm. Well, people on the spectrum like myself would really appreciate that, I have to say. I will tell you that if you look at like our Asperger's or any of this stuff, our Aspie memes or any of the sort of Asperger's or autism things on Reddit, this is a near constant complaint. We blame it on neurotypicals. Oh, these neurotypicals, they're just, we create like an enemy image from those, it's like Aspies versus neurotypicals kind of thing, right? And so I'm always talking about NVC and those groups just because I feel like it's a misdiagnosis, right? It's just no one ever teaches us how to do this stuff. And frankly, we stop caring about people and their emotions right as soon as they're out of like 6th grade or something.
True, and like sometimes we're so afraid of, oh my gosh, what he's gonna think of me if I don't like give a lot of context. But like maybe being direct is the easy way to get like what you need, what you want.
I would really like to say that disconnected to one of the questions that we had today in our earlier call, that was like, what was one good piece of advice you received in your life? And one good piece of advice that I received in my life is that it's better to not say things when you are not getting ears to listen. So and this is relates also to empathize with the listener who doesn't want to reflect back. Like yeah, that happened to me sometimes in my life, that I felt that my request was being honest, and that I wanted somehow that because of my request being honest, that should be like accepted by anyone, by everyone, and that's not like, sometimes people, maybe they can be in an uncomfortable position, but you try to help them and they will get mad with you because they wanted to be in that uncomfortable position. So it's like talking to the people that want to hear and not like imposing things because you think you're right.
For sure.
I agree. Yeah, definitely.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because we often don't know. I just feel like for myself, I feel like a canary in the coal mine for people with crappy communication skills. I just feel like because I just don't. I'm just direct, like, and maybe sometimes too blunt, and I'm glad that doesn't seem to bite me in the ass in this community, but it does in a lot of places.
Yeah, and we should, like, if you feel heard here, then you feel that you can talk. But like, if people don't empathize with you, you just stop talking. And that's why also he says that when we request with honesty, it's also important to receive a response from the other, to know how the other is feeling or thinking about our idea.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think one good point of being direct, it's like the other person, when he receives the message, it's like, don't take it personally, because that's another issue that we do a lot of times, that like we take everything personally, but like maybe the other person just wants to be direct and get it clear or get it done or get an advice or something. And it's not really like anything to do with you or like your person itself. It's just like wanting to make the communication more clear, and then to be empathic about it. It's also like, hey, I'm not gonna get it personally, and I'm just gonna listen what he's requesting or something like this.
Yeah, by the way, welcome to Sebnem here.
Hello, Sebnem. We are talking about how to request things that would enrich life. And this is chapter 6 of the Nonviolent Communication book by Marshall Rosenberg. And we were just talking about how important it is to be clear with what we want from others, when making a request, and not being vague with what we want, because sometimes we say what we don't want but we don't say what we want, and that gives like ambiguity and confusion to others. So we were talking about, yeah, being direct, but also being empathic with the others.
Yes, all of this is a riddle to me. But I finally made it to the call, and I just opened the book as well. Thanks for sharing and making it available. Just by finally getting a chance to look at it, I realized it's a very, very wealthy, useful resource. I was just put off by the nonviolent communication thing, I guess, most of the time. It's interesting how we don't, or how we have so many preconceptions about communications and about communication style, especially myself personally. Just happy that it worked out, that I made it finally, and I just would like to listen in for now, and I'm basically catching up. But I'm always wondering, as a personal communication, or being able to play with what you want to say or how you want to say it. These are things, a book with 7 seals to me. So I'm basically good at talking about facts, about things that are. So yes, honesty, definitely, but also about, especially interpersonal relationships, that type of talk, what I famously call humanist stuff. That's, I'm just happy that these resources exist, and we have these groups where we can hopefully help each other to become better communicators.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the topics that we were just going to jump in, from the chapter, and we're making this like an open discussion, is about requesting honesty. And is that if we make a demand, we don't really care about how the other feels or what the other thinks about what we said. We just want them to do it. But when we make a request, it's really important for us to understand how are the other feelings and what is the other person thinking, because we don't want to impose something to the other, but rather we want to make something that would enrich life, and we can only enrich life when there's consent with the other's action. So yeah, he was talking about after we express, we want to know what the listener is feeling, what the listener is thinking, and whether the listener will be willing to take a particular action or not. And yeah, I think this is really important, because sometimes we just want people to do our what we say, and that is objectivizing others. But understanding if the other person would be willing to take a particular action, it's important. And also to reflect on ourselves, if our request is being honest and coherent to what the other can offer, and to how we can meet our needs, because sometimes we can request something, and that is not what we really needed to fulfill or our feelings, or yeah.
Mm-hmm. True. Basically, maybe also from, in the trenches, oftentimes we just hope that we get things done, and requesting help, support, or something that needs to be done, right? And you need the other person's collaboration, cooperation, or just them taking some task off of the common plate, basically. Oftentimes, I guess it's more like wishful thinking. I say this, and then hopefully people actually will do something about it, and then move on to the next thing that needs to get doing.
Yeah.
But actually not taking the time to see that message get through, reflected, and also if the person is not willing to take the particular action, like supporting or getting or helping with a task, etc. Right? There might be many reasons to it, and all of that information needs to be out there and talked about, right? So we get to a point.
Part of the reason why I included the rule omega in that gravity thing, just because I felt like it was a really important corollary to NVC,
And sometimes we get frustrated when others don't understand what we are saying, and sometimes we blame others for not understanding, but we never really reflect on how can we improve our communication to ease the other understanding. And yeah, when we have an idea, it's not always easy to like, and that happens sometimes to people when they have like a great idea and they get frustrated because they say, hey, why are you not following me if I have a great idea? And but that's also the importance of communication and empathic communication, because we have to make the others understand by themselves, and what is good from our point of view, and maybe yeah, we have a great idea, and we want others to just comply, but we don't want to have that time of connection with the other to explain why our idea is that, and to maybe make them agree with our thinking, and be willing by their own consent, to support us in some task.
Yeah, that's this consent thing we were talking about during the Omega call, right? So it's kind of full circle. I noticed that there was this huge consent thing. This is, it's interesting because this is, I think there are 12 chapters. This one is right in the heart of that, and making requests always has a consent point too. And I think if you look through the book, consent is kind of behind everything,
I don't know how far we are supposed to share, but I just thought, because it's so unplanned and I'm jumping right in the middle of this, maybe I share just one hilarious example of how far one can go. In one of the very early teams that I built, there was a business developer who was trying to actually make the concepts, quite complex concepts that we were threading out, actually accessible to business partners and customers. And I saw he was struggling, but I also saw that we were really working in the deep end. And I bought him a book about how to coach people. And I was like, we just don't have time, we just pull these things through, and we don't have time to talk or explain it. It's horrible. I really feel bad about this now, but that really happened. That literally I told him, look, you need to learn how to talk to us. or even learn how to coach difficult people. And basically, looking back, it's A, horrible, B, quite, it's super strange. I just wanted to share that people, or I personally, went to great lengths to not having to learn to communicate, but actually make people, give them tools and books and make connections so that they learn how to talk to me. It's just hilarious, but also super sad.
I'm just going to say that without your communicating to me, I wouldn't have participated in this group at any point, So I think you might be selling yourself short in that way. There's
that was actually super funny. It happened about a year later after that, and I'm coming to realize that these are the lessons, the things that I asked for, actually giving it to people, that's made a huge change in my life. Yeah, and it just continues to get better, but I just wanted to share how much of a different place I was just 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's something that has happened to us. I also had a boss that I was in a very operative place, and when I tried to do something creative, out of the things and the tasks that she told me to do, she told me, I pay you to do, not to think. And I was like,
Yeah.
But yeah, we that's the journey we are all having, and that's why it's also really important to promote this within our culture, these skills of understanding and of communicating with others. but for sure is something that is very impregnated in our culture, and our culture is so violent, and and this is something that I really related to when hearing request versus demands, and I talked to Durgas about this some days ago. That here in my country, it's so normal for people to say a demand asking for a favor. You don't say the other like, "Hey, can you please bring me a glass of water?" You just say like, "Hey, bring me a glass of water," and yeah, it's so normalized that we express violently to others, and that we don't make the request um, like in a compassionate way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that happens
Especially when
in other
it's
countries.
in cultures, in Turkey, for example, as well, in different cultures, when there is some roles, normal or elderly versus the younger people, there are things that can be demanded, or it's normal, or it's accepted, right? And complying with the demand is also the cultural norm. And in some organization, most likely as well, right? There is basically, you don't take time to request, or even get into this understanding the way I said, what will it affect on the other side, but literally just demand because things need to get done fast, and you know what to do, and we move fast and break things, and I'm the DevOps guy, and things need to, if something doesn't work, basically this is how I dish out what needs to be done.
I have to
And that
say
can
that
be,
my
as you
view,
said, part of the culture.
my view on move fast and break things means move fast and break ourselves. I think it's that's what I hear every time I hear that. Is that we're gonna be the ones that suffer from that moving fast.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And I liked this part of when he tries to make like the difference between request versus demand, because he says like the difference is the way the speaker reacts after the response of the other. And yeah, that when the other person hears a demand, they can submit or rebel, but depending on the reaction, we can observe, yeah, if the speaker was saying a request or a demand, because it's a demand if the speaker then criticizes or judges, because it's very easy to make a request, but if the other says no, then you start criticizing, and that way it wasn't a request, it was a demand dressed as a request. But or if the speaker then lays a guilt trip for it's a demand, but when it's a request, the speaker shows empathy toward the other person needs. So yeah, it's really easy to confuse a request with a demand, but the main difference is not the wording, because like a request is more complete and it includes the feelings and the needs, but also the way that we expect the other to react in that situation. And I liked that example that he gives in this chapter, that um, yeah, he says that like a mother was expressing a request to her son, but then if her son didn't make the request, she started judging him, and she didn't understand what was the action that she was making a mistake in her communication, because she thought that because she was making a request expressing her feelings and her needs, that immediately made it a request. But like after, when she started judging, she made it a demand.
That's amazing, actually. Sorry, what is the background of Rosenberg?
I think he's a
I'm very
psychologist.
unprepared.
I think he's a psychologist.
Psychologist. I will definitely catch up. Sorry
No,
for this
don't worry.
question.
Yeah, he's a clinical psychologist.
I loved this quote. Our objective is a relationship based on honesty and empathy. Yeah, I think honesty and empathy are like the cornerstones of a respectful and a healthy relationship. And yeah, he then talks about how important it is to have our objectives clear when we are making a request, because sometimes we make a request and we don't have our objectives clear. And when others trust that our primary commitment is to the quality of the relationship and that we expect this process to fulfill everyone's needs, then they can trust that our requests are true requests and not camouflaged demands. Yeah, and this is the example I was mentioning. Like the mother, like I told him he couldn't go to life being lazy and irresponsible after making a request, and that woman was not distinguishing between expressing requests and making demands. And even though that sometimes we're conscious of our intent and express our intent, our request with care, some people may still hear a demand, because we are so used to hearing demands that sometimes we are predetermined to react from a defensive standpoint. And that's why it's so important to engage in communication and not expect someone to do something because you say so, but rather being careful of making the other understand our needs and where our requests come from, so that yeah, they don't hear a demand. And this sometimes takes time. And it's not easy, and that's something that I really liked about nonviolent communication. I have found it a personal challenge in my life, and now with my wording, I am trying to not make anyone responsible for my feelings other than myself. And like that was one of the most common mistakes I did in my life, saying like, I feel because you. And when you do that, you place the responsibility of your feelings to the other person. You should say, I feel because I want to feel that, and you are the only owner and responsible for your feelings.
Sorry, guys, I gotta go.
Okay, thanks, Durgas. We are also getting to the top of the call.
Thank you, Durgadas.
And yeah,
Thank you.
we are going to go with this summary of the chapter. And next week we will jump into chapter number 7 of the book, which talks about receiving empathically. And yeah, that's really important. Because right now we have been focusing on how to express things, but NVC, it's not only how to express, but also how to receive things. And now we're going to get into the part of how to receive and process the signaling that and the communication that comes from other. But the summary of this chapter is that the fourth component of NVC is making requests. The first three are observing, relating to feelings and needs. And to make honest requests, we have to avoid vague, abstract, or ambiguous phrasing, and remember to use positive action language by stating what we are requesting rather than what we are not. And the clearer we are about what we want back is the more likely we are to get it. And yeah, that the message sent is not always the message received, so we need to find out if the message was heard and receive response from the other. And yeah, we need to be clear about the response we are wanting back. So requests are received as demands when listeners believe that they will be blamed or punished if they do not comply. And we can help others trust that we are requesting, not demanding, by indicating our desire for them to comply only if they can do so willingly. The objective of NVC is not to change people and their behavior. In order to get our way, it is to establish relationships based on honesty and empathy that will eventually fulfill everyone's needs. Wow, this is beautiful.
Wonderful. Yeah. And it's such a different. It's not a different, but I think it's literally the other side of the coin. When we're establishing these systems of engineered environments and reward systems that may help in social scalability, right? But without this, without this human relationship layer functioning or having the freedom to become such a way of relating, those two sides need to come together, then we will have a better systems.
Yeah, for sure.
And they're beyond what we can imagine. So it's super interesting, but you see how different it is from most of the other talks or developments in token engineering, technical side of token economies. I'm wondering if in the DAO space, where it's more about the organization and more about the human side of things and these communication and interpersonal relationships, would you say this is seen seen as needed and get the needed space also?
Yeah, I think that more and more people is not only seeing the tool for and the technology for being faster, but also to become more human. And yeah, I think you could see technology as something that would take away our humanness, but also technology as a way that we can express our humanity. And I feel that's the flip that we are giving to it right now. And yeah, and there's a quote from Wittgenstein that I like, that he says like, if you have a ball, you can throw it to the air aimlessly once and over again, but you can also create some rules, and with that same ball play a game. And I feel that right now with crypto economies, we created the tool, so we have the ball in our hands, but we haven't been able to do interesting things with it, like changing our society. Like that would be the top. And changing our society is not only changing the institution or the system, but also changing the culture that we reproduce in that society.
Yeah, our ways basically, right? It's super cool. And I'm super happy that it, by chance, thanks to the summertime
I think
change.
that this topic is so important that like a lot of people should be here to listen to this and learn more and just like try to work on themselves better to improve the ways to like not have imbalance communication. And I feel that it's so rich, all this, everything that like we're discussing in this book.
I also like it that it's very practical. Yeah, I have loved this exercise of this book club.
Me too. It's very interesting. And it matches with a lot of things in life. So thank you for the session.
No, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And see you later. And yeah, next week we will go with chapter 7.
Okay,
Nice.
let's spread the word.
Thank you.
Okay.
Take care.
See you later.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Take care.
Bye bye.